Welcome back to Charlie's Mailbox, where I answer actual questions from actual people in my inbox. This week's question is: how do I randomize a list of student names? And I'm going to take the opportunity to talk about some other things you can do with lists of data that you might find really helpful. So let's head over to the computer, and you can see here that I have a Google Sheet. And in this Google Sheet, I have several names. I just got these from an AI tool. And at the top, it says name. Now, suppose this were your class list and you wanted these students to be in random order for some kind of activity that you were doing, what have you. How would you do that? Well, first of all, before proceeding, it is important when you have a header like this name at the top, you want it to stay there. And the way that you can do that is by clicking on the View menu, choosing Freeze, and then how many rows you want to freeze. In this case, it'll just be the top row. Now, once you select that, you'll see this darker gray border underneath, and you'll notice that as you scroll, the names are scrolling, but the title name is not. So you want to do that before manipulating data in general. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is highlight this entire column, and the easiest way to do that, to select it, is to click on the actual letter, the A, at the top of the column. That will select everything in the column. To randomize the name, we're going to go to the Data menu, and we're going to come back to this menu and do some other things as well. But initially, you will notice that one of the choices is Randomize Range. If I click that, the names are now in a new random order. And I can do it again, data, randomize range, and they're in another random order. Notice how the word name did not move, and that is because we froze that row. So again, with all the data selected, one option in the data menu is called split text to columns. And when I click on this, you'll notice that these names that used to have a comma between them are now in two separate columns. And in fact, this new column is the first name, whereas the first column is the last name. So Google Sheets will look for a comma or something else that separates data in a consistent way and then attempt to split the data for you. That can be really useful. What are some other things we can do? Well, we could perhaps just select column A. And again, under data, we have the option of sorting the sheet, right? So I can sort the sheet by column A like this. Now notice that these names are in alphabetical order, and the first name moves along with the last name to keep everything in order. I could also sort by first name, show you a different way to do that. If I just go to this pull down arrow in the top of the column, that's a quicker way to do it. And here are these options: sort sheet A to Z. And now you notice that Aaliyah, Amina, etc., the first names are now in order. And again, the last names moved along. If for some reason you only wanted to sort one of the rows and not have the other one adjust, you can do that by only selecting that range and under data, choosing sort range instead of sort sheet. But generally speaking, you want to sort the entire sheet. Another useful feature in the data menu is called data cleanup, remove duplicates. If you have a long list of data and there may be duplicate values in there, you often want to get rid of those. So if I choose remove duplicates, it's going to ask which columns I'm talking about. So in this case, I'd want it to be column A and B, meaning both the first and last name are the same. Okay. And just before I do it, let's note that Wei Chen here at the bottom appears twice. All right. And also notice Isabella Garcia appears twice. And because I alphabetize them, they're right next to each other. So if I go to data, data cleanup, notice I don't need to select the data incidentally. It's going to do it on the entire sheet. Remove duplicates. and I say remove duplicates, it's going to tell me 2 duplicate rows were found and removed, 21 unique rows remain. And let's say these are the grades that students are in. And another useful feature is being able to filter the data. Let's see how. Again, in your data menu, we can choose create a filter. We're now going to get these green triangles. And if I go over to grade, I could say, perhaps I only want the 11th and 12th graders. So I can deselect 9 and 10. By the way, you can clear or select all if you have a lot of values you're working with. But in this case, I'll just get rid of 9 and 10, leaving 11 and 12. And I can say, okay, and here are my 11th and 12th graders. Incidentally, I can keep filtering from there. I could say, what if I just want, 11th and 12th graders who have a certain last name or that sort of thing. But I'll leave it where it is. And now this sheet is filtered. I can remove the filter by just going back to the data menu and clicking remove filter. And as always, there are multiple ways of doing this, but I just wanted to show you that you can always go to the data menu to perform these kinds of actions. One last thing I'll point out is you may have noticed that there was filter versus filter view. And to understand the difference, if I go to create filter view and I do the exact same thing, I just choose the 11th to 12th graders and I say OK, I can now save this view and it will prompt me. I'll say 11th and 12th graders and I'll click save. Now, what's the difference? Well, there are two important differences. One of them is when you create a filter view, it doesn't change what other people are seeing on a spreadsheet. So if you're sharing a spreadsheet and you create a regular filter, you're changing what everyone sees. But with a filter view, you're simply creating a view that's available but is not automatically on for other users. Another neat thing about filter views, if I go back to data and I say change view, you'll notice that I can now click exit view. And you may have noticed that here's that view that I saved. Here's one I saved earlier, ninth graders. You can pull it right back just like that. So if you have certain ways that you want to filter your data, you can actually save those views. And again, if this were a shared sheet and somebody else was looking at it right now, they would not see what I'm doing in terms of these filter views. They'd have to turn them on themselves. So I hope you found that useful. There are lots of great things you can do with sheets to organize, analyze, interpret data. I'd be happy to help you with it. Thanks for watching and keep those questions coming.